Welcome to We the Village. I am your host, Elena Thomas. This is a show for us, women, men, and everyone living in our community. This show is for everyone that makes up our village, because we can't do it alone. On today's show, we will be talking to Sylvia Bulanek about multi-generational friendships, staying healthy as we get older, and running marathons in her 60s. She's the youngest 6-year-old I know. There's so much to learn here. Her humor and Sylviaism keeps us entertained and on our toes, the many miles that we cover on our morning runs. I met her in 2019 when I became a part of a running community here in town. We have built a friendship and many wonderful memories since then. We even ran the Boston Marathon in 2023. Welcome, Sylvia.
Woo, woo. Yeah, that was a lot of fun too. We had a good time. That's right.
Yes. So why don't you tell people about yourself? The key things about where you live, what you do. Who's your village?
Who's my village? Well, I have a pretty big village. Thank goodness for that. I live in Corona, and I've been living here now for close to 26 years. Longest community I've ever lived in my entire life. And I have a wonderful family and great support system. And I work in marketing. I kind of stumbled into marketing years back. I'm also an artist, a graphic designer. I like to write. So there's a lot of things that I do.
A lot of creative outlets, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I consider running a creative outlet.
I actually do too. That's kind of fun. One of the things that I love about you is that you display your art pieces at a church on Easter. What is that event about?
Oh, it's a wonderful community event. And what's so great about, you're talking about Stations of the Cross at Crossroads Church in Corona. I've been doing it off and on for, 15 years. I'll show up and just do it. But what's wonderful is that the artists are from a variety of different backgrounds. You don't have to have a lot of experience to be in Crossroads Stations of the Arts. And they're not just that, you don't have to necessarily attend Crossroads. You just have to be a Christian and have a desire to want to make the art and to represent whatever that station is. This Crossroads has like 21 different stations. So I've done several over the years, and some of our friends as well. This year I'm doing what they call Stations 19, and it's when Jesus is taken down from the cross. And so the individual artist can decide what they want to do. It doesn't have to be a depiction of what you might see if you're going through a book or, if you're visiting Italy or whatever, and there's no stereotype of what it needs to be. You just find out that meaning for yourself and how you want to express it to the audience that's going to be there, and hopefully you'll have an impact.
I love seeing all the individual art pieces.
Yes.
It's always so surprising and so awesome how well they all fit together, even though the artists are doing their own independent thing. Very cool.
Yes, it is cool.
Yeah. So we met in a running community.
Yes.
This would have been probably about, I'm going to say 4.5 years ago or so.
Wow, time flies by. Really been that long?
It has been
Holy
that long.
Cow.
Yes, we've covered a lot of miles.
I only started running, for your audience to know, I started running at 55. And it was because of community. And we talk about village community. I like to say community. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of variety of different communities. And a friend invited me to go to this running group. And I used to run when I was younger. I've always been athletic. But at that time in my life, I really needed something just about me. And I wanted to be, and I didn't realize it until I started running with this group, what a wonderful positive outlet it was. The first time I ran, I haven't been running in years. I did 5Ks when I was younger, but I ran 5 miles and I'm like, wow, I just ran 5 miles. I'm 55. And I'm like, what the heck? And then next thing I know, I've been in the group. I've been in the group for a while, and we met. I was running with another friend of mine. And anybody that knows me knows that I use it as a social outlet too. Everybody thinks running is a solitary thing. You just go out and run by yourself. But it's so much more fun. in a group. Oh no. And it's not as boring. And you can talk and chat and you catch up and you share things. We have an expression, what you say on a run stays on a run. So for me, it was a lot of fun. Then when I met Lena, it was, my gosh, it was, she joined the group and I could tell she had some skills and she was going to be taken off in just a matter of time. And sure enough, she's going to start
Well,
outrunning me in a heartbeat. And
I started running when I was 40. So kudos to you for starting at 55. I feel like 40 is also kind of a late start.
yeah,
But yeah, I did my first half marathon and then first marathon when I turned 40 as well. So that's really cool that we have found this community later in life. But we do have friends that are in their 30s, early 30s, mid 30s. Some of our girls are 40. Some are about to turn 50. And
yeah.
Miss Sylvia is the youngest, 61. I know.
Yeah, I'm very blessed to be able to be running. That's the other thing. For me, it's such a blessing to be able to do it. But you see, a lot of people don't know how to do it right, and so they hurt themselves. But when you join a community, they can teach you how to do it right, and they can meet you at your different pace, and then you could just go. I mean, I never ever imagined myself running a full marathon. I heard about people doing it. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
There's
But
crazy
then,
people,
right. And then now, we call ourselves like one percenters. If you're a runner
right?
and you run a full marathon, you're called a one percenter because it's very rare.
But not
Uh,
only that, it's even more the 1% of the one percenters ever run something like a Boston Marathon.
right.
And
I'm
yeah,
gonna shout that out. And I can't believe I ran the Boston Marathon. I seriously said I would never run these marathons. Those people are crazy. And then you get running with this community. And of course, the joy of running with them. And then the way they show up for you. Because even if they're not running the marathon, they meet you where you are. And that's what a good community and a village is about. Because we all have our highs and lows in life. And it's nice to have a friend that'll meet you where you are, who'll let you just be yourself and encourage you. And it's so positive. So I love that community. I really love this blessing in my life. If anything, I think about stop running. And, you hear things say, if you keep running, it's not good for you or in your joints. But I think all things in moderation. And, you have to make sure when you get older, you have to recovery time. Good shoes. Anybody
mhm.
who runs will tell you the crucial thing of good shoes, right?
Proper equipment.
Proper equipment,
Yep.
100%. And then just good friends, good community.
Yeah.
Some of these women I would give up my kidneys for in a heartbeat because they're that special. So there you go.
And likewise, I think some of our women would give up a kidney for you as well. You are very beloved. What is it like to be friends with girls that are half your age? And, I think sometimes there's this intimidation of like, oh, those, too young or whatever. I'm not at their level. Maybe I won't be as fast. But I think our community has really embraced multicultural,
Yes,
multi-generational
yes,
approach to womanhood. We learn a lot from each other. And I just think
yes.
that is so special. And so I wanted to talk to you about how do you feel about this multi-generational community that we've created?
Well, I'm a Christian woman, so for me, I don't think it matters as much. I really believe steel sharpens steel. So when you're around people like this, you learn from them. Every last one of these women are unique and they contribute in a different way. So even though they're younger than me, they remind me of stuff because we've become stick in the muds, right? All of us become creatures of habits and we get complacent, but complacency is the enemy of life because when you get complacent, I think that's probably why we have so many problems in the world too, because people get so rigid. So, like Yelena has a wonderful talent and gift about her that's unique to her, and I love that. And so then our youngest friend, our friend Sarah, she's a different person, and I adore her. She's like my sister. I don't care what anybody tells me about age. These people are my sisters. They're not. Age is something that there will come a time maybe where I can't do a 9 minute pace or I won't do an 8:30 pace, but I'll still be able to run and I'll still appreciate these people and I'll still meet them where they are. And you have to also understand that these women are all exceptional women. They're moms, they're working moms. We have business women in our group. We have teachers. We have a mom who gave up her career like I did to raise my children when I was younger, and then I had to start my business all over again because life happens. But she's doing the right thing because she's doing what's best for her family. And every last one of these women is doing what's best for their families while meeting their own needs. So they'll get up early and go running, and then they spend the rest of the day taking care of other people, their job, their family. So I think that's universal because we're all moms. And I think maybe being a mom is kind of universal, even though mine are older. I think it still contributes to that as well. I appreciate it. They say that what is that? There's a season for everything, right? And we're all in different seasons too in our groups because some of us have younger children, some of us have teenagers, some of us now have kids in college. There's no grandparents yet in the group, and don't look at me because it'll be a while. So guys, go ahead.
One thing I really appreciate about you is that you're always learning. You're always learning new things. You know, some of us would share a podcast. Maybe it's about nutrition or hormone health or the Bible or something else. And you are always quick to jump on that and do a deep dive. And then you share what you've learned. And in that sense, you're right. Iron sharpens iron, and we learn from each other. But I love how you don't present yourself as you've already arrived and that you know because you have more experience, but you're always good-natured about learning and learning from younger girls and learning from life experience. And so I love that.
I mean, life's about learning, right? We don't know what we don't know. We talk about that a
yes,
lot.
That is Sylviaism right there. You don't know what you don't know. I'll bring Sylviaisms up in just a minute, but go ahead.
The reason why I say that is because I think we're all humble women too, because these women really, I am so honored to be with them. Some people aren't very secure with themselves, and so they feel like they have something they have to prove to others. And we're all perfectly, wonderfully made. We're all designed for a purpose. And if you keep that in mind when you meet people, and you have your uniqueness, everybody else has their uniqueness. So it's not a competition thing. It's more about a lifting up of each other. And I'm very secure with myself, so it's okay. People know, though, I'm very straightforward and honest when I need to be, but I'm polite. I try to be polite. So anyhow, I'm going to say that this group they're all really strong women. So, and I really like what they have to say. I want to hear their opinions. I want to give them the feedback. I really do. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring up Sylviaisms on your 60th birthday.
Which was a blast.
Which was a blast. So for our birthdays, for the girls in the group, we usually show up and do a run. So for example, if I'm turning 45, we're going to run 4.5 miles. Somebody usually brings pastries or donuts or bagels, something like that, and coffee. Sylvia usually has her rendition of "Happy Birthday" in this lounge singer voice that is hilarious at 5 o'clock dark in the morning.
Happy birthday!
That's right.
So much fun.
But for your 60th birthday, one of our friends had an idea of printing your sayings that you say all the time on shirts. And so we showed up to your house at 5 a.m., all wearing a different shirt. Mine said, close enough for government work. Another one of our friends said, gosh, I should have a list of these.
Okay.
God is good and I am grateful. You say that all the time.
You mean it.
The most hilarious one was, I gave up one night stands for Lent.
Well, it was so funny. We were all sitting around gathering, and we were talking about what we were going to do for what we're going to give up for Lent. And being a little bit of a mischief maker, I couldn't help but say that because it was just funny for me as a Christian woman sometimes when we get into things, But It's
Shock them a little bit, right?
yeah, well, made everybody laugh. That's for darn sure. We all had a good chuckle over it. I
Yeah.
haven't forgotten it. And there are other ones. Like each one of these expressions means something to me. Like good enough for government work was from a guy that I dated back in my college days when he was working for the Air Force, and I always thought that was hilarious. And then
You don't know what you don't know.
you don't what
That
you
was
know. No, I've learned that's something that I came across about 6 years ago. I think a lot of people are repeating it. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a singer who used it in her song who's quite famous. Oh, I wonder who it could possibly be.
Someday. Oh.
And
Yes, Taylor.
yes, yes. So we'll give a shout out to her. But there's also, and the other way is you only know what you know, but I happen to like you don't know what you don't know. It just sounds right. And it's so great because now some of the kids in our group, like
Yes.
one of our friends, their son will say it all the time. And then I heard another one saying it. And I mean, that's great because it keeps you humble. You know, everybody has a story. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So where did these little Sylviaisms come from? Are those just little phrases you pick up along the way or?
My mother was a walking encyclopedia for these phrases, like "Don't cut off your nose to spite your face," "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater," Don't call the pot. That's the pot calling the kettle black." All of
Mhm.
those expressions. I mean, some of them I'm trying to remember all of the shirts. It'd be hilarious to see them all because everybody had their favorites
Oh,
and
we
they
had
chose
like
them.
15 people with different shirts.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
I just thought
so
that was one of
fun.
the most special ways to celebrate you. That was really so
I,
much
I don't
fun.
know. I don't know who thought of it. I'm thinking Angela because she has that
You
way,
would
but
be correct. She is that way. And that
she's
was her
talk about
idea.
she's a unique individual. I mean, literally, when you were growing up, your brother said you remember how I don't know about you, but I had four older brothers, so I grew up with quite a lot of siblings. And I've heard every joke you can think of about coming from a large family. Like, did your parents ever watch television? Did you grow up on a farm? Are you Mormon? All kinds of really. And like, I'm look at people like, are you thinking? Do you think before you speak when you say these things to people? However, the funny
Really?
part about it, yeah, the funny thing about it is, as I digress over, Angela's so unique. You know, when I was growing up, your brother would say, I broke, you were so special, God broke the mold. You know?
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, darn right. So it's a blessing that we're all so very unique. And that's all I got to say on that. But
Absolutely. So, having your recent deep dive into health and wellness, inflammation, hormone health, um, what is your motivation for doing the work and digging deep and learning all this stuff when a lot of people have just given up and said, well, it just is what it is. It's part of getting older.
that's a good question because there are some cultures that'll say when you turn 50, you don't have to work anymore. And I kid you not, they just feel like they need to let themselves go.
Oh, what culture
Um,
is that? Where do I go for not working after
I
50?
don't want to throw any culture under the bus because, today's world, people are a little sensitive. But anyhow, my thing is, I care, well, it's like running. Running was the one thing I could do for myself to stay healthy. But if you take care of yourself, if you're not a selfish person and you take care of your health, my motivation is for my family because I want to be here and be present as long as I possibly can. I want to take care of myself. My father's going to be 93 this year, and he's still independent and doing really well. And so, knock on wood. And there's such a thing called physical age, right? So I might be 62, but my physical age is actually my early 50s, according to a lot of the stuff that I've been studying.
Yeah.
So,
I would say I'm in a way better shape than I was at 25, you know?
I think so too. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm in that old cliche. I'm in I probably am in really good shape. But believe it or not, I'm really strong for my age.
You really
So
are.
let me talk about health. I'm reading this book, and I don't know if I could share the title, but
You can.
it was inspired by a podcast that Yolanda shared with me. I
Mhm.
started listening to it with going, oh, this makes sense because I've been studying health and being healthy for a while, and I can usually detect malarkey really quickly, and I won't invest in a book first until I read it. or listen to it. And so this particular book is called Why Am I So Effing Tired? And I'm not saying it's the gospel of all things because I don't believe there's one book. I think there's a variety of different things.
Mm-hmm.
But taking care of your health, the things that she talked about, I already knew a lot about it, but she got more intense on hormones. And as women, we really don't talk about hormones enough. We really don't. We don't talk about, we go through menopause, especially my mom and whatnot. They never, it's just something that you go through. It's something you endure, suck it up, buttercup, right? So, yes, and I see that it's being up. Now, I read this book and she just really goes into depth per chapter. And then it gets to the end about how you can change from eating and sleep patterns. I always knew sleep was important because it'll keep you young looking longer. People don't realize it. You'll burn your body out a lot faster if you only get 6 hours of sleep a night. Oh, but I can handle it. You think you're handling it, but you really don't know. When after reading this book, I realized I wish I had read this book 15 years ago. And then after reading it and getting more into it and diving deeper, I wish I had read it 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because I don't think there's enough studies on women's hormones. For example, medication. Medication for years was only being tested on men, not women.
I know. I was so surprised to hear that. That is so crazy.
Yeah, in 1994 is then they really started. I think it might have been further back. I actually think it was in the 80s because I do remember that being from the 80s, where they started studying more about women and things. But for even medication, the impact of medication on women is different than it is on a man. And heart attacks are different, for example. A lot of that stuff has come out only in the last 10 years. So hormones affect a woman differently. And then the impact of stress on a woman's hormones. There's so many factors that go into that'll make you not feel good. And you think it maybe you just ate something bad when in actuality, it's not what you have eaten. It's something else. Your hormones are just not centered. So
yeah,
she talks about.
I'm seeing a lot of more information coming out. And I think it's due to people that podcast about it, people that talk about it, people that bring it up with their girlfriends like we are. And I love that,
Yes,
you're learning at 60, I'm learning at 44, but I'm also teaching my daughter who's 14 so that she doesn't have to, so she knows her body and knows about hormones, knows how to feel and how to fuel your body for how you want to feel is really what it is.
Oh, it's a whole balance. And we're on cycles. Women are naturally cycles. Actually, human beings live
Human
in
beings,
cycles.
yeah.
In general, right? And yeah, men and women, the moon, the sun, the whole shebang. So we get off centered. Men don't realize how much hormones play a role in them as they get older. And they don't talk about that with men, right? They say they preach other things to men too. It's not just women that need to understand their bodies and how hormones impact them. And anyhow, I find all of it fascinating and educating, but the connection of it all, going full circle, she really brings up all kinds of different things in it that I liked, like intermediate fasting, where you fast for 16.
Fasting.
Thank you, intermediate. I was trying to struggle there for a second, but you know what I was going to. That plays a role. Sleep, regular sleep, like go to sleep at the same time every night, even if you don't sleep 8 hours, at least try to do that. All of these things will help keep your body in sync and keep you younger looking.
I was just going to ask you what your secret is. That must be it.
Sleep is a good thing,
Thing.
The worst thing you could do for yourself is stress. So one of the other habits is to try to deal with stress. Like if you come across stress, deep breaths, take a deep breath, hold it for 5 seconds, count backwards from 8 to 1, and just release it. You don't think that's a big deal, but it actually works quite a bit to just help you just relax. Besides prayer, obviously I'm a big fan of prayer, letting go of things. I practice the serenity prayer. I don't have any addictions, but it's a beautiful prayer. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with that one. But stress will undermine your health faster than anything else. It's proven. It will really just jack up every part of you. So how do you deal with stress? She talks about it in the book, how to avoid it. And then, of course, running. And too much, because what stress does, by the way, which is fascinating, is it triggers a fight or flight in
Yeah.
you. So your body reacts to that.
Hmm.
And you don't want that, because if you get too much of it, you get too much
Cortisol.
cortisol. Thank you. And if you get too much of that all the time, it'll throw your entire body out of whack and it'll age you faster. So
Can
there's all
you
this really cool stuff.
can you think back to even a recent time where you were not dealing with all of that as well as you are like today? Or was it more intuitive and that you've always been practicing sleep and low stress and prayer and letting go of things?
Well, I like to say I'm a saint, but it's not true. Like everybody, it's random. I'm good at it sometimes and sometimes I'm not, but I have learned through the book called Atomic Habits. It's the
Yes.
hottest book out there right now. That was the other thing that I would tie into this book, along
Hmm.
with a book called The Awe of God, if you really want to be well-rounded. But yes, there was a time in my life where things were really upside down. That was part of the reasons why I started running,
Mm.
and to just for a positive outlet, because there's only so much you can control in life. So what can you control? And so you focus on the things you can control and you can contribute to help yourself. Running was one of them.
Hmm.
Food, I've always been kind of really good about eating food. I will never be a vegan. Sorry, vegans. But yeah, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, time kind of goes by really fast. After my husband left, a year later, I lost my job, and I was a single mom, and I couldn't get hired because of my age. Ageism is real, sorry, but it really is. It's difficult to do that because then they have expectations and they look at you differently. And then I have a lot of experience in certain things, so I had to just be a scrapper and start from scratch. So I started my own business.
Mm.
And the stress for starting your own business at home, when a lot of people do that, by the way, my age. A lot of people will start businesses in their 40s and 50s because of they were in a job and they got laid off and they can't get a new job, can't get the same, so they start a new job. It's not uncommon.
Hmm.
They'll start a business. So during that time, things were rough, and I didn't have the community that I probably needed. Now I have a community. So I'm a big fan of community with church. I'm a big fan of community if you can get in with running. Get out of your comfort zone. Go to Meetup. Meetup has wonderful hiking groups.
Hmm.
If you want to join a hiking group, um, but there's different ways of getting communities. There's book clubs. There's things you can do. Don't be afraid to just go to a club. There's also Bible studies are a great way to meet people. If you go to a church, if you want to just meet people and learn, because one of the ways to stay accountable is with a running group. Because
Hmm.
if someone's going to go running, I show up to be there for them. And there's an accountability. Accountability is always an issue with all of our lives, right?
Yeah.
So accountability with food. If you have a food buddy, maybe somebody you can talk with if you're struggling in an area where you're trying to jumpstart. Um, just talking to people will help you. Just say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm struggling with that. And you can do that in a community, right?
Yeah. And then you
So,
get me too. And that's how you create a community,
yeah.
right? But what I hear you
Yes.
saying is
Yes.
that you go, you seek out, you try new things, right? Sitting at
Yes.
home waiting for somebody to come and get you is not going to create a community.
No. And it's lonely.
It is so
Yeah.
lonely. Yeah. So that's I love that. I love that advice of just seek out a friend, seek out a walking buddy, seek out
Yeah.
a coffee buddy, right?
Yeah. Drag a friend with you. If
Yeah.
you have a buddy, a friend, get your kids to it. Okay. So now I want to talk about legacy. So
Oh,
you asked me earlier about
okay.
legacy. That was something that really hit home to me because I am getting older. When the days ahead of you are shorter than the ones behind you, you really start thinking about things. And so I have two daughters. I adore them. They're both extraordinarily human beings. I just love them. And I can't wait to see what they do with their lives. It's going to
Mm.
be so much fun. You know what that is like a parent because you have wonderful children too. But I was thinking of legacy. And children learn not by what you say, but by what you do. It has to be a combination of both. So when you get out of your comfort zone to go join a running group, and all of a sudden they see you running a marathon in your 40s and your 50s, it is noticed by the kids. Children notice that. My kids brag about that. They think it's amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a freedom in that, knowing that you accomplished something. So that's a legacy that not only am I leaving that for my children, but for my grandchildren. So I did this deliberately so you could just see a few medals on the ground. They're going to see
Just
them,
a few. Just a
just a
few.
few. And those are my really favorite ones are my Boston one right over here, but you can't see it. But my only because Boston, if you don't know, Boston, you have to qualify. You can't just
Uh-huh.
sign up, okay? You have to qualify, and every age has a time that you have to meet, and you got to beat that time by 5 minutes, sometimes maybe even 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
lately, to be able to run Boston. It's a big deal. So it's really great. What makes Boston also special, if you do meet that time, you have a great chance to get in and leave a legacy. So there's other types of legacy. You talked about art. The paintings that I do are a form of a legacy for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
They could see that I did this, and didn't just do it for myself. I did it for the community. So it was something else. It's not all about me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
these are the things of the legacy that we can leave our children. So how you take care of yourself, how you choose to eat, are you smoking and drinking and then telling your kids not to smoke and drink? Trust me, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work. It really doesn't. And then I used to like to have a beer when I was younger, but when you get older, you don't want to have any more alcohol when you get older. Not because you don't enjoy it, is that once you start studying the impact on your body, then you're like going, oh my gosh, okay, I get it. I get it. So that's another thing in that book. But it's the legacy of many different things that you can leave your children, like being a good person, being a kind person, never, always keep learning, never stop learning. By the way, I learned that from my father. He's 93,
Mm-hmm.
never stops learning. He became a lawyer in his 40s. He went back to school, got his degree, and became a lawyer and had his practice, and he did really well. So at any time in your life, you can change. You can do it. You can do it if you want to do it. And just humble yourself and ask for help. If you need it, ask for help. Don't be so strong not to ask for it. And leave a legacy. What kind of legacy are you leaving your children? Ask yourself that today. Where would you make your changes? How would you make those changes? Um, so there you go.
That has been the cry of my heart for probably a decade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's coming up on a decade when I woke up and I was like, I am miserable.
Oh,
It's all about work, responsibility,
right.
and I'm like numbing and moving through life. And
Oh,
what I started doing for myself is therapy and working out. I started working out 30 minutes a day, every day. And I felt so great that I switched my schedule around to do that first. So in the morning when I wake up, it's prayer, scripture, a workout,
beautiful.
coffee, shower, and that is all done before anybody wakes up in my household,
And it's
which is
all for you,
it's
and it
all for
benefits
me.
them.
And when I talk to people about it, sometimes I would hear things like, "Oh, I can't wake up that early," or "I'm taking that's like a whole hour and a half to 2 hours that you're taking away from the day." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. Those practices add hours to my day.
Yes, yes,
I
I
feel like
agree.
they add so much energy to the rest of my day that I'm much more effective as a parent, as a boss, as a worker, as a friend. I feel like because I've got filled up in the morning, have taken care of what I need, now I'm free to give out of that abundance. Whereas before, I just felt like, no, I don't have time to work out. No, I don't have
Right.
time to read my Bible. No, I don't have time for my friends. I'm a mom. I'm a working mom. So flipping that to take care of
Okay.
those things first.
Yes.
I do believe that those things are creating a legacy, like you
Yeah.
said, a legacy of things that we are passing on that they're just watching. They're watching our practices, whether we say things or whether we do the things that we say. So that was so impactful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're creating healthy habits for yourself, right? Healthy habits is the key in life, that find that balance. A lot of people will say, I'm too tired, I can't do it. And I agree with you. I'm trying to switch up my mornings right now. And I'm going to tell you, audience, it isn't easy. If you read Atomic Habits, it's going to talk about triggers. And if you're trying to quit cigarettes, for example, and you smoke coffee, you're going to have to give up smoking coffee because coffee is your trigger for a cigarette.
Mm.
So what you've just done was create a very healthy way to start the day. And that's how you start the day. Like I like to start my day a certain way, but I want to switch it up a little bit. And then I also like to end my day a certain way. I always start with God and I end with God, and for me. And whatever happens in between, I know that I've done it for myself, right? Like you said, you're taking care of yourself first, right? And then and you're serving. So I love that. She's always, by the way, been one of my role models for discipline. Because if you read Atomic Habits again, it's not about discipline. It really isn't, because you're going to fail if you want to be disciplined all the time. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to fail. But if you have a habit, it's part of your subconscious mind. In that when she has her trigger immediately is for her to get up to go to her quiet spot, right? I bet you 10 to 1 you have a quiet place where you like to read, and then you do your exercising, and then you get your coffee, and then you hop in the shower. All of those things are triggers for you. One leads to another. And that healthy routine is just something that becomes part of you. If you try to white knuckle it, you're not going to do it. You're not going to white knuckle it through anything. You got to do
I don't know
good,
where I
healthy
picked
habits.
this up, but what you need is a plan, a place, and a purpose, right? Those 3 P's. And when you have those things, you can actually, it's a little bit easier to do those things. So I kind of want to end our conversation with asking you, is there anything that you know about God today that you didn't know when you were 40?
Well, first of all, I was raised as a Christian woman, a Methodist, but I didn't really know God very well, his word, until after September 11th. September 11th changed my perspective and my mind. But we don't talk about that. But I'll never forget people jumping from the towers trying to save their lives. And it sent me to my knees saying, what side am I going to be on? So I started reading God's word in 2001. I went back to church and it transformed my life. I'm actually been apologizing for God that it took such a horrific event to get me back to church. But however, I say that tongue in cheek in some ways, but sadly. So what do I know now that I didn't know then? Well, it's been, 23, 24 years I've been studying the Word. And what would I know now? Trust. My trust in God is so much greater over these last 21 years. God shows up. So for me, it's knowing that God will take care of things and really trusting in that. It really is true. Even though
is it just having the perspective and looking back on the last 23 years and all the ways that he's shown up, now you have faith and trust that he will do it again, right?
Oh, I think so. The pattern, all my life, God has been showing up for me, all my life. But now I've connected it with the word too. And now I'm going back. I always go to God first, right? We don't go to a doctor until we get sick. Unfortunately, some of us have to get sick, right? Some of us before we do it. And it's that old analogy. But I'm trying to, you caught me off guard because I'm trying to think, well, one of my favorite, I have my favorites, a lot of my favorite scriptures. God turns all things around for our good and his glory. And I truly believe in that. And I take comfort in that. So that's one. There's plenty more. But I just think that if my heart's in the right place and my intentions are good, God knows the truth. God knows the intentions of my heart, so I don't have anything to prove to anyone. I'm secure within that. That's out of that security allows me to run with 35 years old, 55 years old. I'll run with a 70-year-old. I don't care because my security doesn't come from this world. It comes from my faith. My peace of mind comes from my faith. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Is there anything you're looking forward to in 2024?
Good question. Well, I qualified to go to Boston again, but I didn't sign up. Just for the record, I qualified at Boston. All right.
For the
Very
record.
But I chose not to go to Boston because none of my friends were going. And I just decided not to do it. But I don't know. I think I'm looking forward to, I don't know. I'm on an adventure. I really have been on an adventure for 8 years. 8 years ago, I don't know if I told you this, Lena, but I literally just said, Lord, your will be, it might have been over 9 years ago, Lord, your will be done, no matter what. And my life has been transformed and changed. It's been hard. Tears have been shed, pain, loss, gain. And in the end, my faith is stronger. So I really fall into that. So when you talk to me about my future, oh my goodness gracious, I have no idea what's going to happen this year. I mean,
but I'm here
I
for
don't
it.
know, but I'm here. I'm ready. Honestly don't know. I have my business is doing well. Thank you, Lord. I'm healthy. I'm strong. So I'm going to continue to run. I'm hoping our friend Natalie, who's amazing. She's one of those incredibly beautiful, smart, educated women that everybody loves to hate because she's just so perfect. I say that
we love to love her. We love to love her.
Yeah, because anyhow, what I was gonna say though is she's gonna try to qualify for Boston. So I'm actually excited for that. If anything, I'm looking forward to her qualifying for Boston.
And we will cheer her on.
Yes. Yep.
That's right.
So how about yourself? Do you have anything exciting happening?
There's always something exciting. I've just been doing a lot of inner work, a lot of therapy. So I feel like this season is about growth and change and inner work. And as hard as it is, as painful as it is, I'm finding that I'm actually excited about what the Lord's going to do with that. Yeah.
Well, I think you're courageous for doing this podcast and starting it. I'm going to be your number one
Brand new
fan to
podcast.
support you. I think talk about getting out of your comfort zone, right? It's scary to get out of your comfort zone. It really is. But like all things, it becomes you will get comfortable if you do it. So to the village out there, don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and continue to grow and be a caterpillar. Sometimes you just need to eat, and so you could be a butterfly. And if you're working on yourself because you're figuring things out, that's a beautiful thing. I totally cheer that on too.
That's fantastic. That is exactly where I want to end this. You guys, thank you so much for joining us today at We the Village. Don't forget to hit subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on all the socials at We the Village Podcast.